Hi Casey, it's Katelyn. I am really excited that you are part of this critique, and I'm excited to help you grow and learn. And so, thank you for being here, and thank you for trusting me with this part of your business. And I'm excited to see how I can help you improve. So let's get started. I first of all, I think you have beautiful images. I just love her expression. She's a cute girl. And I also love the color in this image. What you took it from a magenta tone to a little bit of a greener tone, and I think that's great. I think if you look back at this image and you're like, there's something weird about it, you may think that later on that there's a little bit more green in it than you may like. So, um, that just comes with adjusting, like walking away from your computer and not looking at it for a while and then coming back and saying, oh, there is a little bit more green in this than I thought there was. Um, so the way you can adjust your white balance in a way that you may, I mean, to be honest, this image is beautiful, and I wouldn't, if I were you, I wouldn't change anything. But I do notice a little bit of a green tint in her skin, and that can be adjusted here, So obviously it's not that bad. That's pretty bad. You just have, I would just adjust it a little bit, add a little bit more warmth and a little bit more of the reds back in the image, and you might think that that's a little bit better in the long run. Another thing is that I think I read that you shot this at 11 a.m. and obviously 11 a.m. Is getting close to the worst time of day to shoot. And so if you ever thought during this session the light is just so harsh, that's just because of the time of day you're shooting in. And so if you want to fix that, I try to shoot either right at sunrise or 2 hours before sunset, and that helps a lot as well. Something else that I notice is that I think cropping abnormal crops is totally okay. But when it comes to your client printing an image, if this client wanted to print this as a 5 by 7, um, you know, they're going to have, let me undo this. They're going to have a little bit of trouble. They're going to have to crop it in like this. Or they're going to have to, say they want a 4 by 6. They're going to have to crop it in like this. And so that's not a bad thing. That's just something to be aware of if you don't crop with normal dimensions. Right now you're really close to cropping like a square. This is the most normal frames. If you ever run into that issue, that's something that a lot of people don't realize, is that when you start cropping, without any rules, you just kind of crop squares here, a little bit more of a square, maybe just a rectangle, but it's not dimensions like print sizes. That may be an issue in the long run. So that's just something to think about. So for example, this one is cropped almost like a square as well, and it's really hard to find square frames. Most frames are 4 by 6, 5 by 7, 8 by 10, 3.5 by 5. So if you crop like this, maybe that's great for your portfolio, but for the actual images you give your clients, you might want to leave them more normal crop sizes, just so they can print it and not have any trouble. So that's, that was for free. So for this image, I think it's great. I think your editing's great. I think your exposure's great. I would just maybe make a note that it was a little bit green when it comes to the overall tone, and I just changed that by upping the magenta tones just a little bit. You could also make it a little bit warmer if you wanted to. I tend to like really warm images, and so that's just personal preference. But your exposure is great, posing's great, her expression is awesome. You should be really proud of this. This image, I'm sorry these are low res and I can't zoom in any further. But there we go. I would crop this in a little bit. And the only reason is because up here is a lot of dead space. I do like the glowy sun, so I hate getting rid of that, but I think it's worth it to have more of the focus on them. So when you have more of the focus on them instead of the rest of the image, it becomes more of a portrait to me. So I think here the biggest help would be cropping. And maybe you didn't crop it because you thought, oh, but the glowy sun is coming through the coming through the trees, and I can see why you did that. I just think if they're going to put this on their wall, they might like it if they're more focused on them. Another way to judge this is that at least one of their heads needs to be over this third line in order to have even composition for this type of image. So before His head was really underneath the center line, and I think for accurate composition, trying to keep their heads within that top quadrant of squares is going to create a really even portrait. So another thing is this could probably be just a little bit warmer if you wanted to. If not, if you don't like warm images, then I think you are just fine. You did a great job handling the highlights on his shirt, and I think it's beautiful. I think you did a great job. So just cropping there, I think, would be the biggest help. And then let's go to the next one. So I love this, and I think the colors are amazing, and I shoot at this location all the time. And so I think if you wanted to crop it and stay within normal cropping dimensions, my crop would have looked a little bit more like this. If you really, really wanted to have cooler composition, you could do something like that. I think when you crop in at a square, you just might run into issues down the road. So let's see. When it comes to editing, I really like what you did. It looks like you may, and maybe I'm wrong, it looks like you may have adjusted the clarity or just made it a little bit, trying to make it sharper. I don't know if you can tell the difference here. But if I was adjusting this image, I would increase the exposure just a little bit. And this is just to get images looking like mine. That doesn't mean it's right for you. This is just what I would do. Darken the shadows a little bit, give it a little bit of a pop. So we kept warmth. We kept it sharp because it was a pretty sharp image to begin with. Here, when you compare these two, like what I just edited and what you just edited, or what you edited and showed me, do you see there's a little bit more blue tones? It's a little colder image on this side. This is a little bit warmer. Now, if you wanted it to pop, if you wanted my edit to pop more, you can do that without getting heavy detail lines. When you start using clarity or sharpening tools, all the little sharpest areas of the image start to get really messy. So if you were going to darken this image or make it pop, I would just adjust the contrast a little bit more. And so yeah, I hope that's helpful. I think the biggest thing noticing here is that sometimes when you up the sharpness or the clarity or too much of one thing, you start to lose the feel of the image, the softness of the image. So I didn't really change much of the white balance because your white balance naturally was really great. So I hope that you can take what I did over here and see how I took the original image compared to what you did. So I don't know exactly what you did when you were editing. It's not bad. You should be proud of yourself. It's really great. But there are some changes that could probably be made to make your images a little bit warmer when you look at them. So I hope this is helpful, and I can't wait to help you next week. I'm sorry I didn't do much about coloring for this one. I really think that's because I think the coloring is great. It may have a little bit of a green tone to them, but I really think it's an awesome image. So you should be proud of yourself, and I will see you next week.